everyone after this session. Okay, so guys, before just starting off with the topic that we have decided, we'll do is I just have a small announcement. Like I think everyone knows about it, right? So I already mentioned. So I think we have almost like have deployed the site and will be live in 2 days. So this is really gonna be little bit different from what you have seen till now because so let's say most of are already my students, right? So we are all been together for very long, so you all can really join in indirectly. It's really going to be helpful for everyone, and even for the college students, right? If anyone is here, I think they I'll share the recording with them, so that is going to be again a very useful for them because we are also launching some you know uh, like a kind of a internship kind of program to all the college students. So we are already connected with few colleges now, and they are really interested in this product. And so eventually, like I will extend to that, as many as possible, as much as possible. So as students really find it difficult to get internships, right? Let's say third year, fourth year college students, they definitely need internships. But very rarely you will see that these students are just getting internships anywhere. Few of them will definitely cry, of course. Like there are always a few people who will always look into it, but maximum of them really don't have idea, what to do. Like so many messages, even on WhatsApp, right? From this community, I get so many messages every day. How should we start? From where to start? So basically, that is really gonna be something that will really change the way you look at this field. And second thing is like we are already into tech space. Like as I think everyone knows, we are also running a AI startup. So it's not limited to AI. It's like end-to-end development services that we provide. So even like from 2 years we were B2C, and but now we are more of a live and now a private limited company. So we also work on a very real tech space things, right? So we have all the whatever clients that we are currently working in, we are working in financial domain and we are into healthcare sector. So both of them, we are really making the changes into it. There are people who are connected with us. We are working, on a very good level, to solve and tackle very complex issues with that. So this platform, that is going to be there. So that is going to be very friendly with respect to, let's say, everything that that we have heard till now. Where you will also have like challenges which are directly posted by companies. So it's like companies are the ones who will be posting the challenges for the simple and initial part. It's gonna be let's say on our level also we'll be posting like many different challenges that are available. So like this. Okay. So this is how we be planning to proceed with this. Okay, now guys, let's begin. I think I'll also show you the simple demo of that platform, maybe at the towards the end or something. Okay. As of now, still it is, yes. Okay. Now see. Now, idea was to discuss about, what's the impact of this generative AI field, that is really taking over the world. Okay. So maximum of you have. I'm not sure how many of you have worked with it, but many of the students that are here, I think many of are already with me. So I think we are already into the space to understand some deep learning concepts. Okay. So if I talk about in a very simple terms, right? So generative AI is like, so I think everyone have heard about ChatGPT, right? Everyone might have heard about all these different models that are coming. So we call them as AI tools. Okay. So in very simple terms, like how these AI tools are created. Okay, so it's like a very simple and straightforward process. I think now it's like a time where you really don't need to code everything from scratch. But again, like we'll also discuss a lot of disadvantages of it, right? So as far as we are working into the space, we can definitely point out many, we can definitely point out like many challenges that this particular field actually has. Okay, it's not like as easy as it looks like. Very easily you're coming up and writing the asking ChatGPT to do a certain thing. Okay, but when you talk about the production level coding, right? So in the productions, this is not that easy. I mean, it's not like simply will just give a certain task to do it and immediately you're getting some answer and everything you cannot be expecting from the ChatGPT and or let's say any other platform. And even it is not like that of a smart where it can build like the whole system design. Okay, for a smaller task, definitely it can build a very good skeleton for you, but not something that it's like an end-to-end solution to it. Okay, so just one simple thing, I'll just share my screen. Okay, and I think as we discussed in every sessions, we'll just do the same. So I'll open my whiteboard. I think it's taking a bit of a time. Okay, just a second. I think this is fine. Let me just share my screen. Okay. So now, guys, like in these simple terms, right? First of all, let me just tell you like what this generative AI is. Right? So, it is just like a kind of a simple intelligent model that can generate some kind of new context, new text to you. Just say, look, someone is, let's say you are going to GPT and you're asking, okay, hey, create me this particular document or create me this particular PPT or, this is the document I have. Can you just create me some and very cool stuff out of it? Maybe create some image for me, right? Okay. So it has that particular understanding, where it can really generate some, beautiful applications or beautiful, images or beautiful kind of text for you. Okay. And the most like a wonderful part out of this is like it creates, it creates, okay. So it creates, like, you can call it a human friendly text, human friendly answers. Okay, now let me explain this term a little bit broad. Just let's consider that let's say a few years back when you used to ask Google certain thing, right? Let's say in your own language, but like it, you never got an exact same response that you're expecting, right? So the kind of responses that now GPT is giving, so you are asking something that is completely in your own language, and now GPT has that understanding. It is able to understand what exactly you're trying to say. So it is exactly trying to pick up the context that you're trying to say, and from that context it is trying to generate the most relevant answer that it can get, right? So you literally ask anything to it, right? I mean, in a very nomen terms, like in very simples of the words, in very, you don't need to give very high level keywords or nothing like that. Okay, in very simple terms, you can really ask the question and you're really getting the answers in a most appropriate ways. Okay, so now before let's say diving deep into this, let's understand where exactly it all started, right? So I think if anyone have worked little bit on natural language processing, or if anyone has worked on little bit on transformer architectures. Okay, so guys, basically this is also an transformer based architecture only, right? So we'll explain what it is. So in what happened was, NLP space was really evolving, like in 2013 around, when Google introduced this work to wake. So that was one of the algorithms, after which, this field changed a little bit, wherein, we were able to progress and understand, the context in very, very better ways. Okay, but the problem that was happening was it was not possible for any of the models to understand the bigger context. Now when I say bigger context, so what's the meaning of it? Let's say now I have the whole big paragraph. Okay, so let's say I'm saying, hey, I'm Saurabh and I work as a data scientist, and let's say, this is all the lot of information about me, right? So let's say 10, 15, 20 lines are there. So the problem that was happening was it was very easy for other models, right, to understand some kind of part. Means what? Okay, let's say before this also there was one simple evaluation happened. Natural language was mostly used with the machine learning, like classical machine learning. Like we used to use the models like naive Bayes 2. Naive Bayes, okay, there are few algorithms, okay, but naive Bayes was one of them where we used to use naive Bayes random forest to understand, do all the type of different tasks that that are there in the NLP. So let that be text classification or sentiment analysis or any kind of task. But as the deep learning got evolved, okay, so then with respect to deep learning, we got RNNs. So RNNs are like, you can just understand in for now, if even if you don't know what RNNs are, for now just understand. RNNs are the simplest neural networks where all this generative AI thing started. So the first model of generative AI was RNN, that we call it as a classical deep learning. Okay, so even RNNs was doing the same thing. Like RNNs were specifically designed to understand the sequential type of data. Now when I say sequential type of data, now let me see. First of all, let me discuss what are the different types of data that you usually see. So usually you see the data in tabular format, right? Let's say you have a few rows and columns, right? Let's say you might have seen like this. You have the data. Let's say you're doing a house price prediction, right? So let's say you have multiple columns like this, and from these columns, let's say you have square feet areas, or maybe how many bedrooms it has, balcony it has or not, surrounding area. So there are a lot of different factors which are which eventually get you the price of the house, right? So let's say in general you are trying to train a model on this, okay, and you are just you just have this tabular kind of data. Now when you give the input into the data, or let's say when you give input to any kind of algorithm, so how input you give, let's say these are the features you have, you give the input to the features and you train the model and you expect some kind of output from it. Okay, so again, these are few technical terms, few of you might know, or maximum of you might not know, but for now just understand there are these type of data. Need not to worry what kind of machine learning, what kind of deep learning. Eventually we'll go one by one there, as we are moving towards that. We'll go one by one there. So now this particular space that we talk about, okay, so that was really solved by something called as ANN. So deep learning consists of three different parts: ANN, CNN, and RNNs. So ANNs were doing wonderful handling this kind of data. So now the problem happened was this tabular data was handled very much effectively with the help of machine learning, right? So machine learning was doing really great tasks to handle this kind of data. But the problem that happened was, as the amount of data started increasing, okay, as the amount of data started increasing, the performance of the machine learning algorithm started decreasing. So in very simple terms, what means, let's suppose if this is a performance and let's say this is ML algorithms, okay. So as the amount of data was increasing, right, as the amount of data was increasing, so it was not possible for machine learning models to handle that data. In very simple terms, just understand, you have let's say 5 GB of storage and you are trying to store like 10 GB of that into it, or let's say even if you have 5 GB and if you try to load all the 5 GB, eventually your let's say mobile will start hanging out, or your laptop will slow, eventually it will slow down all the functions and everything, right? Why? Because you don't have memories left. So in simple terms, you can think in that particular way. As the performance of the model, as the amount of data started increasing, it was not possible for machine learning algorithms to handle that big data. Okay, so now to handle that particular big data, we had deep learning into place. So then deep learning really took over the world, right? And at that particular time, we had ANNs which were doing this tabular data task very perfectly. I mean, even without, you can just understand in very simple terms, like we just say, no, you never need to exaggerate too many things, or you don't need to exaggerate much about anything. So machine learning was much about a lot of exaggerations, like you had to do a lot of different modifications. In very simple terms, you call them as parameters or features. So you had to tune a lot of different parameters to get one certain answer, or let's say one certain, like to get to one certain level you have to do not many things. Okay, but deep learning was doing that in a very simple way. Okay, so yes, now again deep learning has its own advantages, because it was a deep learning, it was a bigger data, so eventually we'll need more bigger spaces, you eventually need more better GPUs and CPUs to handle this data. So as it was increasing, it was very easy for ANNs to handle this kind of data. Okay, now second came was image kind of data. Now you might be seeing a lot of different models around the world, like image face recognition. I mean, everyone in their phones have this, right? So you have a simple phones. In the phones, what you do, you just look into the face and eventually you will see okay, there is something, and you can just unlock that particular phone. Okay, so in this particular way you have like a lot of different taken applications with respect to CNNs. So CNNs, we call them as convolutional neural networks, were specifically designed to handle image kind of data. So videos हो गए, फिर images हो गए, like you talk about images, videos. So whenever there were some kind of image present, CNN were doing wonderful tasks to handle that kind of data. Okay, so the biggest problem was, now understand. See, once you understand about the neural networks, then it will be more easy for you to understand what in details what we are discussing. Eventually, to everyone, we gonna go to that stage. But for now, let's skip that part. So, and when we talked about the RNN, so RNNs were specifically designed to handle the sequential type of data. Now, when I say sequential type of data, now let's suppose I'll tell you, see, sequential data. So when I talk about sequential data, what do you mean? Let's suppose you have, let's say, an sentence. Let's say, hello, my name is Saurabh. Okay, and I work as a AI engineer. Okay, now let's suppose this sentence I have. Now, in this particular sentence, the input that you will give has to be measured in an exact similar way. In simple terms, what? You have to make sure that you are passing this as a correct context. In very simple terms, I cannot, let's say now, so let's say I have this particular whole sentence. Okay, so when I talk about the sequence, so what's the simple meaning of that? I cannot write like this, right? Let's say, and I work as name is so my hello AI engineer. Now what we did, we had the same amount of words that we used, but we just shuffled these particular words. Means ordering was not considered. Ordering was not considered. In any of the above models, ordering doesn't matter. Okay, let's say ordering doesn't matter. Let's say you have the tabular data. Okay, and in the tabular data, you pass the, let's say you have different features. Okay, you have square feet area, you have let's say a number of BHKs, you have maybe which area that particular house comes in, how many BHK it has. So there are multiple things. So in that particular scenario, you pass any feature first. You pass maybe square feet first, or you pass maybe any other first. That really doesn't matter. You eventually gonna get the price of the house. Okay, but in such kind of data that we call it as sequential data, ordering was very important. Like to maintain the order of that particular data was the utmost and the most important task. Because just understand, right, you simply cannot write anything like this is the only way you can send this sentence, then only you can get a meaningful sentence out of it. Okay, so to have this particular kind of data, to process this kind of data, we had RNNs. So you might have, now you might talk about the applications like all the time series data, right? You have all the stock price predictions data, like stock prices also are there, right? So stock prices needs to be considered, let's say minute by minute, hour by hour, let's say second by second, right? So that is also like an stock data, right? So where we need to maintain the sequence of the data. So in such kind of scenarios, RNNs actually worked very fantastic. Okay, now what was the problem with the RNNs? So there were very simple problem with the RNNs. The problem was it was not able to handle big amount of data. Means what? Now in very simple terms, see, RNNs had a factor called as memory. Because see, now if I'm saying, okay, let's say this is my sentence, okay, and let's suppose I have, let's say, more bigger sentences. Let's say I'll write few more sentences. Let's say I want to do one very simple task of next word prediction. Word, right? So maybe you might have done this in your schools and colleges, right? So you have the fill in the blanks, right? So as in your section. So now if you ask Google about filling the blanks, very easily it can give. Let's say you say, okay, the let's suppose no, we can just say Delhi is the capital of India, and the, let's say, current, or we can say no, and it is also known for the population. Sorry, no offense guys, right? Or let's say pollution. Okay. So now, okay, again, no offense, okay, to anyone, but just like in sentence, okay. Now, understand here, see. If I ask you one thing, okay, let's say, for now, we'll take example of this one also afterwards, okay. But now just understand, see. Now, when I say that I want to understand this, I want to understand the sentence, I want to understand this particular data or whatever the sentence is being given. Okay, let me see, someone is admitting. A few people. Okay, now see here. Now, in very simple terms, what you can say, the Delhi is the capital of, let's say, no, capital of, let's say, India. Okay, and now see, it is also known for its pollution. Now, if I ask you in very simple terms, like let's say as a human being, what exactly this it refers to, guys? This it refers to what? This particular Delhi, right? Now, as a human being, it is very easy for you to understand this. It refers to Delhi. Okay. Now, but for a particular model, or let's say there is a machine, to understand this particular for a machine, it is a very, very tedious task. Okay, because now see, when exactly it can understand that this it actually refers to this Delhi, when it will, when it will try to store this particular memory into their memories. Means till the time it will not store this particular memory, right? Till the time it will not store this particular sentence, this many words as a memory. Till that time it will not understand what exactly this is. It will never be able to tell, okay, what this it refers to. Now, in let's say any simple ANNs or RNNs, CNNs, what is happening? It do not care what is written over here. Okay, the is processed. Okay, then just leave. Okay, now there is no work of you. Del is processed. Now you go. There is no work of you. Is processed. Now you go. The is processed. Now you go. Means there was no memory stored over here. Now RNNs came where it became very, very. Now see, it's very simple, right? When you talk about a sequential data, you need to store the memory. Okay, when you want to do, let's say now you do the stock predictions. Okay, you want to understand what can be the price of the stock, let's say tomorrow. So for that, definitely you need to store certain kind of data, let's say maybe plus few days or 7 days, right? So to store this particular data, or you can say to process this particular data, memory was the important factor. Memory was the important factor. Then only it can understand what this exactly it refers to. Now again, you can talk about next word prediction. Now, if I ask you to predict, let's say next word about any certain thing, when exactly you can, let's say predict the next word? When you exactly know what is the context of that particular whole sentence, right? So you exactly remember, okay, yeah, this is the context of this particular whole sentence, and then I can say that, okay, next word can be this XYZ thing. Okay, but now understand, let's say as a human being, you don't have the, let's say, parameter called as memory, or let's say you don't have that thing called as memory. So what will do? Okay, you will just keep on reading this, forget. It's like Gajni, right? 5 minutes understanding, 5 minutes, till the 5 minutes it can understand everything, and it will just forget everything. Now just imagine this model as a Gajni model. RNN is like a Gajni model. Means what was happening? Up to certain limit, it was able to understand everything. Up to certain limit, it was able to store the data. But as the sequences were going bigger and bigger, let's say I have the very huge sentence. Let me just, what I'll do, I'll take one very huge data. Let me just take one. Let's say I have, let's say, a review about, let's say, any movie I'll take. Okay. Now let's see. Let's suppose now I have this particular review. Just an example, right? So this is nothing to do with our thing. Okay. Let's say this is there. Okay. And now I will just take this one down here. Let's say I have this one. Now understand, guys. See. Now let's say I want to analyze one simple thing. I want to understand what can be the sentiment of this particular whole document. Because see, guys, sentiment analysis is like a very, very huge task in the any industry, right? Now understand, let's say you're working, let's say Flipkart ho gaya, Amazon, Flipkart, you see a lot of e-commerce website, shopping websites you see, right? Now in that particular case, how do they decide that whether some product is actually good or not? Definitely they need to look at the reviews, right? Till that time they will not look at the reviews that are being given by people. Till that time they will not understand whether that product is actually good or not. Okay, so now just understand, it is possible. Is it possible for a human to sit down and read, let's say, 1 CR or let's say 1 lakhs of reviews and then segregate, okay, this is positive review, this is negative review, this is positive review? Is it possible to do that? Definitely not, right? So such kind of tasks are made very easy with the help of NLP. Okay, now just understand, guys. Now let's say if I'm using RNN to detect this particular thing. So the problems that happened with the RNNs was, it was forgetting the memories, as we are going in the forward directions. Means what? Let's suppose it started saving the memory from here. Let's say it saved till here. Let's say first sentence it saved. But as we moved to, let's say, this season, second sentence, then slowly it started forgetting what was written in the in the initial letters. Let's say here, I don't have usual reviews, like this it started. So as we were moving forward, eventually it started forgetting the context in the backwards, because it do not had that understanding to have the context. Means it was not, so we call it as context. Means it did not had ability to handle big context data. It was not possible for it to let's say handle such a big context of the data. So because of that, what happened? RNNs failed in certain scenarios. Okay, RNNs failed in certain scenarios. So because of this failure of the RNNs, what happened? Definitely they needed something, right? So there was some next thing that had to come. Because of that only, there was a need to just keep it moving forward, right? So what happened was, after that we had this particular part called as RNNs. Once RNNs are done, then we had GRUs and LSTMs. So guys, still we are discussing the history, right? Like how exactly we reached till LLMs. Okay, now we had GRUs and LSTMs. So now you can just understand, no need to go into architecture and all, we are not for that. So it was covering a very simple problem of RNNs, that was the contextual understanding. Means it was able to handle the bigger context of the data. Okay, and it had that very firm memory. Means what? Let's suppose, now sometimes it also happens, right? Let's say there are a lot of unnecessary things that are written in the data. Means what? Let's suppose if I ask you about, let's say we want to do some next word prediction, which is about some, let's say, Delhi, or let's say which is something about any certain topic. Let's say it's about data science. Okay, so let's say now if I'll write one sentence for, let's say, hello, my name is and I am a data scientist. I work in this domain for 5 years. Okay, now like this I write, and then this domain is about ML, DL, and let's say NLP. Like this we can just write, and we also have huge amount of applications in the area of, let's say, finance or healthcare, like this. Okay, and suddenly I also started writing something like, I also love playing sports or watching movies, something like this. And then again I started writing, let's say, the machine learning is a great field to jump into. So like this, I just written on all the different stuff. Now let's suppose if I ask you to summarize this whole particular thing. Now forget about next word. Let's say I ask you to summarize this whole thing. Okay, now let's say you might have seen that chat GPTs can really summarize you all the things in very simple terms. But summarization is like one of the very core tasks of this particular domain, right? Natural language that we talk about. So now in this particular case, what RNNs were doing, RNNs were storing every single memory that it could have. So it was also storing about this from hello, and whatever it can store, it was storing everything about even this also, like, which is also not really not relevant to this particular data. Now just understand, here in general we are talking about data science, right? So if you think from a very normal way, right, there is no need to save this particular memory. I also love playing sports and watching movies. This is not related to this data science that we are discussing here. This is also not important. Hello, my name is this one, and I'm a data scientist. This also doesn't matter. Now just understand, let's say I have a whole paragraph which is explicitly written only about data science. Okay, and in that, let's say you have some kind of sentences which are really not important. So GRUs and LSTMs had this thing called as forget gates or forget memories. Means it had that ability where it was able to distinguish which kind of data is actually important to us and which should be stored, and which kind of data is not important to us and which one should be deleted. So automatically it had that thing. Okay, yeah, from this whole sentence, this hello, my name is so, this is not important, and I love playing, watching sports and all these things, like this is also not important. Okay, so it will only store the data which only talks about data science, because that seems like an important topic in this particular whole, let's say, all the 3-4 sentences that we have written. Okay, so that was a additional thing that it had. But again, there were some problems with GRUs and LSTMs. Again, the main problem was about the contextual understanding. Means it failed to understand the things like, let me explain it now. See what kind of things it failed. Now let's suppose if I write one sentence, right? Let's say I write a sentence called, let's say, hello. Okay guys, just to clarify from everyone, is everyone with me? Like everyone is understanding what we are discussing and how it's going?
Yes, sir.
Yes, right. What about others? Seems like there are a lot of college students too, right? Guys, you all okay? Okay, fine. No, okay, fine. Yeah, if by chance if I have anything, right, so just let me know, okay? And if you still have anything, so you can again ping me anytime, okay? So there is no problem, okay? So let's suppose now there is this thing called, let's say, hello. Okay, let's say something like he went to the bank of the river and then visited bank to get the amount, or let's say bank of the river, something like this. Okay, so let's suppose now this is like a very small sentence, so it's fine, but understand this as a very bigger sentences, right? Or let's say where now see this bank here have the context of river bank, right? This bank has a context of river bank, but it was not able to understand that, because here we need to understand the sequence or the context from back also. Like we cannot simply process the data like this. Okay, he went to the bank. If we process the data like this, eventually it was considering that this bank is a financial bank. Okay, so means financial bank was given more, let's say, we can say percentage to understand, okay, this is a financial bank rather than a river bank. So it was not able to understand the context from behind. Okay, so that was one of the biggest problems. Like it was not able to understand the very critical context. Like when we had like a very critical kind of data, it was not able to understand it. Okay, so there were like many different problems. That's not a topic to discuss. But then after this particular thing, the important thing started, and we had encoder decoders. Now this encoder decoders actually changed a bit of a game. Okay, now the architectures are in very deep. Okay, so that I won't explain you much, but just understand one thing. Encoder decoders are like two different blocks. Two different blocks. Okay, where let's suppose now there is one sentence. So let's say he will be passed over here. Then it will be processed as an input and it will be passed into the output. So it will be stored here. Again, second sentence will be passed. Now he and went is passed here. Again, we'll get some output, we'll get store it here. So it was word by word we were processing this particular output. Yeah, but the problem with this encoder decoder again that happened was it was not a parallel processing. Now in very simple terms, I'll tell you all this particular thing that you see, right? So they are called as a parallel processing. Means as you are writing the let's say inputs, eventually they are also producing the outputs of it. I mean that's a parallel processing that's happening. So all these encoder decoder architectures, what was happening was it was only a forward propagation. Means it was moving in only one single direction. Means let's say you are passing an input like this, input, and then one by one you are getting output. Okay, process this now you process this, now you process this, now you process this. Means the processing time was so huge that it was not possible to solve like very complex, or let's say very complex data sets with this one. Okay, so now understand guys, just to overcome the very simple problems of contextual understanding. Now understand, just to overcome the problems of contextual understanding, like we did not understood the contextual data properly. There was a paper in 2017 which was published called as "Attention is all you need." Is all you need means this was a groundbreaking idea. That's called as a transformer based architectures. And this transformer based architectures became so used that, like see, when they introduced this, right, like when they actually published this paper, so this paper was only limited to, like, what they thought was, okay, NLP space will be much more better with this one. That's the only idea. Okay, yeah, with transformer based architectures we'll be able to build the applications in much more easier way and in much more better contextual ways. That was the only idea. But because of this particular thing, they did not know that it will turn out to be like a disaster. Okay, it's like now everywhere it's there, right? Now in within a space of 7 years, like NLP has evolved so much. Okay, now like you are literally using this transformer architectures into videos, audios, and like healthcare, and where you are not using, right? Everywhere this is being used. Like we thought, okay, maybe till 2040 all these things will come, but like within 5 years this field has evolved so much just after this particular paper called as "Attention is all you need." Okay, so this "Attention is all you need" was a paper where we they actually solved this problem of let's say parallel processing. Means what is happening was every single processing was happening parallelly. Okay, as you are giving the inputs, eventually you are also getting the outputs from it, and they had like a both forward and the backward understandings of the data. Means it was able to understand the context of this data from here also, like from back side also and from the front side also. So because of that, it was very easy to understand what this bank refers to now. Now it can very easily understand, okay, yeah, this basically refers to, it is pointing to the river bank. Okay, so this is where the transformers came into play, and eventually it was all the evaluation of the transformers that happened. Now in the evaluation of this particular transformers, the first thing that into GPT model was the GPT 1.0. Okay, GPT 1.0 came, then we had GPT 2, then we had 3.3.0, then we had 3.5. Okay, now we have 4.0 mini also, right? 4.0 mini. Now, this is how we call it as large language model started. Large language models era started. So now what exactly we did? So now see guys, basically now see what I told you. Now I think you might have understood now. What is basically a GPT? It is simply a transformer based architecture. It is just like a simple deep learning network only. It is simple deep learning neural network. Okay, with better understanding, with better data, and with more precise answering, let's say more precise, we can say answering abilities. Okay, so now in this particular space, people started building all these different applications on top of it. Okay, so now in this particular space, we have actually had transformers. Okay, so these transformers, like GPT, BERT. Okay, so they are specifically used to generate a high quality text. Means you talk about any textual task, you talk about summarization, you talk about next word prediction, you talk about simple sentiment analysis, you talk about topic modeling, you talk about any different kind of application with respect to NLP, right? Now guys, understand all these applications that I'm talking about, right? If you try to solve all these applications from the very simple or very basic, from the very scratch, like it will literally take you so much of amount of time to actually build a very good model. Okay, because like first the most important thing all these particular things is the data. Okay, it's all about data hungry. These all models are data hungry models. The more and more data you will provide to this one, more and more better will be your understanding about that model. So what exactly happened was this GPT and BERT had already had that understanding. It is just like understand, I'm your friend and I know about data science and I'm just trying to explain you. So now it is going to be easy for you to understand that. Okay, rather than let's say you going into the field directly, started hunting everywhere, searching every single website, different YouTube channels, then finding the best one from it, then again following that particular part, again knowing that whether that is actually helpful or not, because amount of content available is like too much. Okay, so this GPT and BERT are like those kind of people. Like they already know everything. So what you're doing, you're just picking them up, and you are using that for your own task. That's it. You are using them for your own task. That's it. So for very high quality kind of text, right? So you had all these GPT and BERT models. So now you have like DALL-E 3 is there. Then you have transformer based architectures. We talk about cloud is there, right? So for the code generation and all. So there are like different applications we have. Okay. When we talked about diffusion models, now there are diffusion models. So these diffusion models are specifically used for image generations. So let's say you might have, you might type on GPT, right? Let's say generate me an image of, let's say a man drinking a tea on, let's say, a Mars, something like this. Okay, it had that understanding, right? So it can very easily generate that image for you. Okay, so all these, image generations are used using something called as diffusion models. Okay, so moreover called as stable diffusion. Again, no need to get confused about all these technical terms that we are using, but for now just understand the evaluation of this model and evaluation of this particular field, how it is being used in today's world. Okay, and another very great and important thing that happened into this space was GAN architectures. So we called as generative adversarial networks. So like a very high quality video generations. Okay, so you might be seeing, let's say different, let's say, AI models, right? Where you just give the prompt, and based on that prompt, it is generating the images for you. Okay, so all those particular, people are using this particular, scene behind the scenes. Behind the scenes, what's happening? They are using this, GAN models to understand the proper contextual understanding and get the videos out of it. Okay, so now this particular thing came into space all because of this, chat GPT, or the thing that we call as the GPT models. Okay, now what is generative AI? So all these particular things that we're using, right? So this is all in together, we call it as a generative AI. Means what? We are using, now understand, we are using the understanding of GPT. We are using the understanding of GPT to create different kind of models like this. Different kind of models like this. Okay, so into this, now see, this is like a very small thing. Now let's suppose you talk about any kind of website, right? So let's say if I talk about some in today's world, what kind of impact this particular thing has, right? So now let's suppose if you talk about education industry, right? So what you have now you have AI tutors, personalized learning is there, right? So automatically now you can generate the content, let's say content of it. Now let's say if you're asking a GPT, okay, like do this particular thing for me. Okay, so automatically it has that understanding. Okay, it is picking up, it is automatically searching from all the different resources into the Google, and it is trying to fetch you the most important thing that it can give you. Okay, so it is like what you are using the understanding of this particular chat GPT, or you are using the understanding of any, let's say, LLM model. So we call it as LLM. Okay, so it is not only chat GPT, right? So there are like thousands of different large language models are available now. Many of them are free resource. Free resource means what? For chat GPT you need to pay certain amount after certain amount of time, but there are also some free kind of models that are there. Okay, so now guys, as a college man or as a freshman, you have a lot of different startup ideas based on this. Like people have literally used this particular simple LLMs, and they have just created all these simple applications like video generations and whatnot, right? So it's not like too much of difficulties. It's very simple. Okay, but just by using a simple knowledge about LLMs and understanding about this small a world, they have actually built this millions and billions of dollar, let's say, startups. Okay, so now in this particular free resource, you now see guys, I just talked about healthcare, or let's say education, or marketing. So even now you will see, right, AI based marketing agencies are there, so they are trying to do the marketing for you. Then you have like software developments where very easily it can debug all your codes and everything, right? So now how exactly this generative AI is able to do all of this thing? So that is done using something called as RAG based architectures. Now we won't be discussing about this one today, right? Because this is not the topic. But now see guys, for now understand what's happening is, now let me just show you something more. So what I'll do, So what we started doing was, let's say we started using ChatGPT to do our own task. Okay, we started using, let's say, different models, not only ChatGPT but different models to do our own task. Now, how exactly it was doing that task? Now, understand here. See, let's suppose I'll just share some recent project that we're working on. Let's say we are trying to build some AI based chatbot, that's more like an enterprise level chatbot for one of our clients. So now just look at this one. Okay, look at this one now. So see guys, now using them is not like a very difficult thing. Now let's say, okay, let me just, okay, now I hope this is visible, right? So see guys, now just forget about everything. Okay, so in this particular case, the structures and everything like that is eventually you will understand as you go in details about it. As you understand the simple parts of Python and everything, eventually you will understand how to write all these codes. Okay, so we'll be doing that, in very step-by-step process. Now, in this particular case, very simple thing I understand is that what we are doing is we are simply using this Anthropic API to do certain tasks for us. So now what we are doing, we are using this Anthropic API and we are generating the different responses for this. Means what? We are giving different prompts to it. So in what terms we are giving the prompts? Let's suppose now if I show you some prompt, if I have, let me see. I think I need to check the prompt somewhere. We have written it. Okay, now just look at this prompt template. So what we did, now see. You are an intelligent assistant with an expertise in answering questions based on the provided context. So what you need to do, use only information provided in the context. Think step by step. Be clear and concise. Admit when you have enough of information and format the responses in very readable way. So guys, what we did, now we had to do certain thing. Let's say I want to create some intelligent chatbot, right? So now whenever someone is asking you a question, so what we are saying, let's suppose now, till now what is happening? Let's say if you go to any website, you had your AI chatbots, right? So we used to have some chatbots. So what the chatbot used to do, if you ask them certain thing, they'll give you only specific answer. Means whatever is answer stored in that particular database, it will just give you. But now if you ask me about these chatbot that we have created, now it will have the more contextual understanding for it. Let's say if you ask, okay, what kind of course I should do? So now it has the understanding about the whole LLM. Means we have integrated LLM into this particular thing now. So now that LLM is trying to answer you. So the LLM will try to understand your question and the way it is answering you. So it will give the answers in this particular format, like the way we have written this particular context, like this particular prompt. To use the information only provided in the context, think step by step, be clear and concise, admit what you have, information and format the clear responses. Similarly now, if there is some kind of query given, then what you need to give? सबसे पहले understand and retrieve the query, analyze the query carefully, identify the key information needed, review and provide context, thoroughly. Then try to extract the information. First of all, retrieve it, then extract it, like I try to understand. So we call it as a rack based architecture. So I'll tell you about that more in the next sessions. But for now, what you need to do is, you can see that we have created different prompts. Let's say query processing prompts are there. Then we have, you will see that, response generation prompts are there. Then you will see that, we have, context processing prompts are there. Eventually, like this, what we are doing is, we are creating different prompts according to your own requirements. So the kind of requirement you have, according to that requirement, you will write a prompt. And like this, after writing a prompt, what you are doing, you are passing all this data to your LLM handler. Like, simply you are passing it. So what you are saying, okay, so like whatever this Anthropic API is there, Anthropic is basically Cloud API, right? So we are using Cloud A over here. So Cloud A has a better understanding than GPT. So we are using Cloud A for this development. So what Cloud A is doing now, whenever someone is asking any question to you now, then Cloud API will hit directly this API. You can see this API key is there. And then eventually it will try to take all this particular context into this understanding, whatever prompts we have written. So once we are getting those kind of prompts, so those prompts will try to generate the response for you. You can just look at this one. These prompts will try to generate the response for you. Okay, so now maybe I can't run this as of now because we already have I don't have this environment running as of now. Okay, so like this, in this particular way, guys, now see all these things are written. Now you are just trying to make that particular answer more and more precise. Okay, let's suppose now if you don't find some kind of key, what kind of responses you will give, what kind of errors you will handle, how will you handle the errors, what kind of helper functions you will write. So now all these things are like additional things that you need to do. Okay, so guys, in very simple terms, this is how the whole generative AI term is being used. This is how the whole generative AI is being used. Now here I use it for, let's say, my chatbot creation. Now you can just use the same thing for to create maybe some videos out of it. Maybe now see, for that you will need different models. That's a different part. Okay, the same thing you can do it for your simple tasks that you have. Okay, so guys, now see, especially for the college students, right? Like this can be like a breakthrough for you. Okay, I mean, creating such a high level projects into your third and fourth year, this can really give you the very great contextual understanding to have a very detailed knowledge about it. Like, understand you're trying to build a model on top of this, and you're trying to show it as your third or fourth year, project. So this can really help you. Okay. Now, guys, see. Now, one more very simple thing I want to add here. Is this enough? Like, let's suppose now you just wrote a prompt. Okay, and from that prompt you got some answer. You are using some chat GPT. So this is all is about let's say generative AI. Okay, and now into this particular thing you have rack based architectures. That's not a part. Then we have something called as LangChain to handle all these frames, all these frameworks. So what is that? That also is not a part today. Okay, you can just understand this as these are all the side supporters. Okay, LangChain ho gaya, then there are a lot of different things. These are side supporters which are just trying to support and to use the generative AI in more effective way. That's it. To use the generative AI in more effective way means LangChain also has, let's say, they have their memories. They have like prompt generation. Let's say whatever prompt you will give, this LangChain will automatically try to improve that particular prompt. That's it. I mean, simple things. Okay, but in simple terms, this is all about the generative AI. Okay, but now guys, there comes a question: is it really enough? I mean, is it really enough? Like, is it really gonna solve all the problems in the world? Okay, the answer is 100% no. Okay, so those who have this thing in mind, okay, can AI take your jobs and something? No and never. Okay, because guys, understand, your classical understanding is the most important thing. Because now guys, understand, not all companies use all these kind of open source models. Okay, they will take help of it. Let's say you have now a very simple example I'll give you. Let's suppose you have created one application, right? And in that application now you are using, let's say, ChatGPT to in exactly similar way, the way I've shown you. So like this, you have created some application, and in that application what you need to do is simply someone is coming asking you some answer, and you are trying to answer that particular question to them. Now guys, understand how is the process happening. See here, someone is user is giving a query, right? So you are getting that particular query. Okay, so that query is then passed on to what? LLM, or let's say any LLM. So that is what currently we are doing, right? Let's say user gives a query, so that query is passed to the LLM. Okay, then LLM is trying to apply all those prompts that we have given, all the different prompts that are coming. It is trying to analyze that, and finally it is generating the response. You are getting a response here. Okay, you are getting a response to again a response here. Now guys, just understand one thing. Is it really feasible to use this particular thing? Understand the amount of money it will take. Understand from the perspective of your number of hits. Because see, that ChatGPT, Cloud AI, or any different type of model you will take, it has certain limit of, let's say, they have certain limits. Up to certain limit, you can, that's called as a token size. So we specifically have to mention token size, and according to that token, only it will generate the response. Now guys, just understand, if you start using this particular model over here, okay, if you start using this model, so any user that is coming to you, you are simply asking ChatGPT to answer that. Again, you are giving that. Again, someone is coming, answering. This process will keep on continuing. But guys, now just understand, like, you take about yourself only, right? So if you start doing any certain work, or if you want to understand any work, is it like you only ask the question one single time? Definitely not, right? You will at least ask the same thing at least 2, 3, 10, 15, 20 times. Okay, what is data science? Okay, it will answer something about data science. Now, okay, what are the different fields in it? Again, it will answer. Okay, what kind of field I should go in? explain every single field. Then it might answer something, then it might say something like NLP. We'll say, okay, then what is NLP? Then it will explain you. Then again it will ask you to do, let's maybe give you some new word. Then again you want to understand, okay, what exactly that new word is about. Means in simple terms, what guys, within one single frame only, you are literally hitting this API like 20 times. Right? So therefore, this is never ever a feasible option to use a GPT or any kind of models directly. Okay, so what we do, even when you have to use this kind of external models to do certain things, maximum times what we do, we use some kind of high level filterings. Means what? We try to filter the questions according to that. Means what we'll do, we'll try to filter the question. Let's say someone is asking the question, so whether this question is really difficult, or whether any different model can also answer that particular question. So maybe then for such kind of simple questions like what is data science, what is all these simple things, we will not directly use this Anthropic API, but maybe we'll use some kind of open source model, maybe some BERT or maybe Hugging Face model, some open source model. Or we will train, or maybe we'll just fine tune some kind of model to answer such kind of questions. Again, now there are some kind of queries which might be very difficult. So after certain criteria, so no other model is able to understand that particular question, then only we will try to hit this particular API. Okay, so that is like one of the very biggest things that we have into this space. Like amount of money that it takes is like very huge. Okay, the amount of space it takes is very huge. Like training this such kind of huge models is not that easy. Okay, so I think this can be, now whoever will be watching the recordings also, like for you all also, it's gonna be a little bit complex to understand all those things that we discussed today. But guys, this is a very high level thing, okay, about generative AI and everything. So before that, to everyone, my suggestion is always to start with the classical things. Learn about what is simple. Python is like the most in this particular domain. You need to understand about simple fast APIs, how to work with the APIs. Then you need to understand some classical machine learning. So for that understanding of classical machine learning, you need to have some simple understanding about mathematics, not too much, like simple integration, differentiation. And I think you all are into the college, so I think you can easily understand that part. Recently you all have been through it, might have given your JEEs and everything, so I think you might be familiar with it. So eventually if you understand that, then when you understand classical machine learning, then eventually we'll move on to understanding classical deep learning, how deep learning was working. Then we'll move to the classical natural language. Okay, so it's not like classical natural language is not used. Still, like in many companies, even we use classical machine learning into very different domains. Okay, so it is never like, see, because understand guys, all the classical things that you will build, right, so that will be built by a human expert. Okay, so there you are putting up all your knowledge and efforts to build a certain thing. So that is never gonna fail. Okay, but at the same time, when you are trying to build something using some simple GPT or something, then at that particular time, you don't have control over it. Okay, there is someone else who has a control over it. So he is trying to control those kind of answers and all. Like even if you can expect certain kind of things, it is not possible to let's say understand or get the exact same answer that you're expecting. Okay, so for on a simple level, it might sound very simple. Okay, on simple level you might get very precise answers, but when you talk in terms of like a production level, when you talk in terms of like a company level, at that particular times there are a lot of issues with this one. And one of the biggest issues we have with this LLMs is about security. Like whatever kind of data you are trying to give to this any kind of models, they do not provide any kind of security. So there is a very high chances of having this data leakage. Okay, so therefore also many companies still don't prefer to use any external models. Okay, but yeah, like now you have that kind of era where very easily you can get the answers done. But so therefore what I told you guys, I also told you about the disadvantages. I also told you about the kind of, definitely there are more advantages over it, but there are like both the sides to it. Okay, so understanding the classical things will never go out of scope. Okay, so even if as a fresher or a junior engineer or even a college students, if I have that particular thing in mind, okay, this GPTs and all are gonna take your jobs or something, that is never gonna happen. Eventually it's all about how well it's like how well you get your basics done. Okay, and once we are done with the basic, then it makes more sense to go into these details and then understand, okay, how exactly every single model is created, then how do you train the models, right? So once you understand how to train the simple models like machine learning models, eventually you will understand how exactly you can train this higher level models. Okay guys, so I think if okay, so before that, moving forward, guys, anyone have any issues till now? Like everyone is like okay with it?
Yeah, sir.
Okay, great. So I think everyone might have had a great session. If anyone still have anything, feel free to ask. Okay. Apart from that, I think yeah, that's so. Yeah, I was talking about that thing, right? So yeah, even to the college students, I'll soon we'll go live, and once we go live, then eventually I'll share that with you, everyone, and even to you and your friends also, right? So I'll ask you all. You're free to join. So we have a broad range of courses that we'll be covering, especially for the college students. We have this very special plan. Like we are trying to come up with something called as there is something called as like kind of an internship program for them. Okay, so like everyone might be hunting for this summer internships. So for that we can definitely help you a lot. And along with that, we are also looking for few great people to join us, right? We have a lot of projects currently in a loop, and there are like into this particular tech field also, like this ED tech that we are building. And to that also, eventually we'll need people to handle this whole backend. So currently though, we there's me and one more of my friend. We both are only like completely working on it. So it's almost done and it's almost live. So once it's done, I'll definitely share it with you. And to all this, I think yeah, to everyone, I think there are many abroad students also who are connected to us. So to them also, like feel free to share it with all those people who actually need it. Okay, and definitely we'll make this a very very great thing. So guys, I hope it was a very informative session for you all, like just to get us very small understanding about what this generative AI is. So definitely, like it's not like we have discussed like on very end-to-end things or something like that. That was not a topic also. So a main idea was to understand how things actually work out in this particular domain, and how the evaluation of this particular field has happened. So I think whoever will be listening to the recordings also, and even to you all, I think you might have understood. So if anyone have any issues to ask, can please ask, or else you can drop off.